Hey, what's going on, everybody? For today's video, I thought we could sit down and do another crazy gun shop ramble. I love sitting down and just talking to you guys, and there's been a couple good ones recently that I felt like the need to just sit down and talk about. I know you guys love these, and unfortunately, a lot of my time gets spent dealing with some of these scenarios, so just craziness all around usually, unfortunately. But the first one I'll talk about is, I'll mention GunBroker here. I have enough GunBroker stories to fill up a whole video, but I'll just mention the one that's been, it was pretty interesting recently. So, for those unfamiliar, GunBroker is basically an eBay for guns and gun accessories and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of the times, I'll tell my customers that, I just take a 15% consignment fee for any time somebody brings something in and consigns something for me. And I tell people usually that fee is worth it because when you, yes, you can, I'll just use generic numbers here. So let's say you bring in a gun that's worth $1,000. I would take 10%, so I take $150. And the fees, because I'm the one who's listing it, I'm the one who's selling it, shipping it, I'm the one who's doing all of that. So that's just the fee I take, and you're still left with $850. Now, could you as a person list it on GunBroker yourself for $1,000? Sure. But again, now you gotta ship it. And shipping a firearm is in and of itself sometimes a crazy, process if you're not an FFL. But it's the convenience that I handle all of that for you for 15%. And I tell people that's usually worth it because you get so many people on GunBroker that ask the stupidest questions, and I can't even state, or just all these scenarios keep coming up. I had one earlier this year. I think I've mentioned it before, but the guy won an item, went completely silent from me for a whole month. And so after a month of tried to contact him, nothing. I do a non-paying bidder claim. And then he calls me and is like, hey man, fell in some hard times. I said, that's no problem. You should have told me that a month ago and I could have worked with you. Why are you waiting a month and no contact to tell me this? If you told me on day one, hey, I fell in some hard times, do you mind giving me a couple weeks? I would have been open to that. But instead, just radio silence. And then on the phone, he had the nerve to sit there and say, oh man, can you give me a month? Can you give me a month till I figure it out? And I was like, no offense, I've given you a month and you've done nothing with that month. So if you can't afford it, it was a $300 gun too. I said, if you can't afford it, then just you shouldn't be buying it. And so it's just, there's a lot of scenarios that come up. So then in that instance, I wasted a whole month, had to relist it, put it back out in my shop, and it's just, some of these people on GunBroker just drive you crazy with I don't know what his thought process was. And I'm not going to call this guy, I'm not going to let him know anything, I'm just going to not pay this and see how long he goes, I guess. I don't know. And again, a lot of people on GunBroker are a week of no payment, they do the non-paying bidder. So, with me giving him a month, that was, and I see why most people do a week, because if you give them a month, they'll abuse it. But the story I wanted to cover today from GunBroker, it was a consignment weapon, and it had a threaded barrel. So in Delaware, I can't sell threaded barrels in my shop. I have to list them online for sale. So I put it out on GunBroker. It got a bid for $300, which the customer was fine with. Wanted a little bit more, but 300 was fine. And they put it out for 7 days, and it sold for $300. So this was a Sunday. He contacts me and says, "Hey, I get paid on Thursday. I'll pay you on Thursday." I said, "Not a problem. It's 4 days, whatever." So Thursday morning rolls around, and I get the notification that says, "Hey, the buyer has paid. It's ready to be shipped. Here's the FFL." Like, I get a little notification that, the buyer's paid. Here's where the FFL that it's going to. It's ready to ship. So I said, "Great, he paid me like he said he was." Then about an hour later, out of nowhere, he hits me back with this, "Hey man, sorry for the inconvenience. I gotta cancel the order." Like, no explanation, no nothing. And I try to help people out as best I can, but like, I explained to him, I'm like, "Look, if this was the scenario, you shouldn't have paid me. You should have just, okay, the very first thing you should have done was contact me on Sunday and say, hey, for whatever reason, I can't pay this, or I don't want this anymore." I don't know if maybe he didn't want it, but hey, I don't want this anymore. And I would have been a little perturbed, but I'd have been like, all right, whatever. But instead, so the listing was out for a week. You waited another 4 days to pay me. And then you actually paid me, though. Like, that, the part that blows my mind in all of this is, like, I still don't know what the situation was. Is it you needed the money? You didn't want it anymore? Like, I don't know what the situation was, but I don't think it was a money thing because he paid me. Like, he had to have sat there and said, I got money in my account. I'm going to buy this item. And then you would have reversed it at some point in your mind, like, actually, you know what? On second thought, nah, I don't want this item. Like, I don't know. And I was about to send him an email, something along the lines of, all right, so you bid on it for a week, you waited 4 days to pay me, you paid me, and now you're backing out. That makes sense. GunBroker is one of those things where they're very towards the seller in the sense of, I'm delivering the product I promised. Therefore, if you placed the bid and you paid for it, then, that's on you. So I was about to send him a nice email, basically stating that, unfortunately, from me listing it till now, about 2 weeks has passed, and payment's been received. It's in my account already. So I was about to say, unfortunately, no, I'm going to ship this product. But then the kicker is, as like almost as I was about to sit down and type up this email at the end of the day, he emails me back and he's like, "Hey man, sorry for the inconvenience again. I had some account issues. I got those sorted out. You could ship the firearm." So after this whole elaborate thing of, waiting to pay me, you paid me, you wanted it refunded, now he wants the gun. And it worked out good for me because I was like, I didn't have to send a nasty email or anything like that, but it's just some of the scenarios you deal with on GunBroker are just insane. And then, but meantime, the customers sort of like, well, most customers are, they're not. Of course, there's a car going by. I don't know if you heard that or not, but most customers are pretty, open-minded to, hey, like I had one. It was a $1,500 rifle guy put on consignment, and a guy put it on layaway, and he's like, "Hey man, it's going to take about 2 months to pay this off." And I messaged the person that put it on consignment, and he's like, "Oh no worries, man." So most people are pretty open-minded, but still, like, this person's sort of like at the same time like, "Hey, I put this gun on consignment to get some money for Christmas. Like, where's my money?" So it's just some of the stuff you deal with. I try to tell people, like, hey, I'm happy to consign it for you. Um, but at the same time, like, that's where your money's going, is just sort of these people in there. Oh my gosh, it's just like the scenarios you deal with on a daily basis. People asking just bizarre questions. And I had one lady, the second story, she brought in a she wanted to either sell it or consign it, whatever. And with consignment, you get a little bit more money, but I can't guarantee that it's going to sell in a day, 2 days, a week, a month. I can't guarantee a timetable. So some people like, just, hey, I'll offer you cash. You're done with it. You're out. So I had a lady come in. It was the 1.0 Smith & Wesson Shield, but it was the Performance Center model. But the 1.0, if you guys know anything about it, it has this bulky, it's a big C-shaped trigger. It's disgusting. It's very clanky, and I don't like it. So she brings the gun in, just, hey, either consign or sell, whatever. Just want to do some prices. How I do it is just like eBay. People can list a gun. You can list a used car that's all 4 tires are flat and the paint's all chipped up and the engine doesn't run. You can list that for $1 million. That doesn't mean you're going to get it, but you can list it for whatever. So I like to go on GunBroker, and you can go, there's a tab that shows you what these guns are actually selling for. So I think the problem with a lot of people is they go on there, they see, oh, this guy's got a listing for $1,000 and your gun's only worth $200. It's because that gun's still there because it's overpriced and it's not selling. So I like to go to the ones that have sold, and you can see which ones have bids or which ones were buy it now and which ones actually got money. And you can then see, so like in this instance here, I'm seeing hers was an okay shape. So I saw one it was pretty beat up. It just sold for $225. I saw most of them were around $250, $275 without the box. So that was average. And then in the 300, and maybe even, I think there was like one for $325. They were basically brand new in the box with the case, the manual, immaculate. And then when you started getting into the 350 category, even if it had the box, they weren't selling. So that's sort of, I can see a range of $225 to $325, absolute max. So I'm looking and I'm like, I like to price things to sell. So I could put it out there for $325 or even $350, but it's probably going to take the right person to buy that. Like I said, it's the 1.0, so it doesn't have a good trigger in it. And it's just, they're good guns, but technology's come a long way since then. And like you can get the SD9s right now for $325 is what I sell them for. And they have a nice crisp, they're the 2.0, they got a nice trigger in it. They're a little bigger than the Shields, but and you can get a brand new Smith & Wesson for $325. So I'm looking at them. I'm like, okay, most of them are selling around $275. I think that's very fair. So I told her, I'm like, they're selling for $275 right now. Cash, I'd be at $175. And if you wanted to consign it for $275, I think I'd take 15% was only like $30-40, something like that. So she would have walked away with like $230 that way. And she got this whole like attitude and everything. And so she gets an attitude with me. And it's like, well, I just went to another shop and they said it was worth $450. And it's just, again, like the stuff, I'm trying my best to be like the best prices in town, just to be the most, the most reputable gun shop. And I feel bad that somebody, and I don't know, maybe there's certain instances where, in my opinion, like let's say, I'm trying to think of a gun off the top of my head. Let's say a gun, I'm looking, they're selling online for $200. Could I put it out for $250, $300? Sure. That doesn't mean it's worth it. Because now, again, you as a customer, be savvy as a customer. You as a customer can go online yourself at that point and pick it up, pay the transfer fee and the shipping and everything, and you'd still be better off. If a $200 gun, I have it in the shop for $300, well, you win it online for $200. You can pay $10 to ship it, pay the $20 transfer fee, you get it for $230. So I feel like it's scummy. Yes, some people, they don't price check, they don't do anything like that. So if it was in the shop for $300, some people just say, $300, I'll buy it. You could have gotten it a lot cheaper, but so my point being here is I'm not trying to be scummy, and could you possibly in some world sell that gun for $450? Maybe. I feel so bad for someone who would do that, but because she didn't have the box, she did have two mags, but no box or anything. You as a customer can go online, buy one that's like new in the box, paperwork and everything for $300. So why in the world would you go to another shop and pay $450 for an open box, not the best condition one? It's a scummy thing to do. So I showed her. I even pulled, like, at this point I knew I was wasting my time because I could see it in her, what was happening in her head. But like the light bulbs were turning. Like, oh, I'm gonna go to the other shop and make a ton more money. And I showed her online. I'm like, this gun is not worth $450. I showed her all the listings, and I showed her when you start getting to that $300 price point, things, they stop selling. I showed her one. I was like, this one's in the box, basically brand new for $350, and it didn't sell. So I don't know what the other guy's telling you, what this other shop is, and no. So she basically thought I was nuts. Like, she told me she thought I was nuts, and the best thing I could do was tell her, hey, that gun, when it sits for several months and it doesn't sell, pick it up and bring it into me. And like I said, some people they'll look at it for $450. They'll say, ooh, it's a performance center, and they'll just buy it. They won't price check or anything. But I don't want to be some scummy, dirtbag company like that. Clearly other people are fine with it, but I don't want to be this scummy person that just rips everyone off. And like I try to just keep all my prices. I can't 100% of the time be the best price, but I try to keep all my prices very reasonable and better, at least better than other shops. And that is working, I think, extremely well for me. So on a new gun, where I only make $100 a gun, they might make $150 a gun because they have it up, but I know that the customers will come back for mine. They'll say, wow, you have such a great price compared to everybody else. Even though I'm only making $100 a gun, they'll buy one gun from another shop. They'll never come back. They'll come back to me and buy 10 guns. And so was that $50 extra price, if I got a gun for $6 and they got it for $650, was that worth it? When now I'm getting the recurring customers and the recurring sort of clientele. But so I almost feel bad for her because she went to the other shop. It is sitting there, whatever that gun, wherever she took it, it's sitting there for $450. And I feel bad. In my opinion, it will not sell. You can get a brand new shield, at least I sell them for $440. So I don't know. You can get the 2.0, the second generation Shield Plus for $440, or you could get her Gen 1, not the best condition, for $450 at the other shop. So I try to bring people down to earth and let you know, hey, this is what the gun's worth. And like we're gonna go off of real pricing. And like I said, I appraised it at 275. Even if she was like, hey, look, do you mind if we put it out for 300, 325, see what happens, maybe have some wiggle room? Even then, like, I'd be like, yeah, you might be able to put that out for 325 and someone bites on it, but I don't think that's outlandish. But $450, that's crazy work to me. That is, words cannot describe how crazy that is to me. So unfortunately, yeah, someone else told her. So now I'm dealing with somebody else, some other shops, just garbage, basically. So it comes with the job, but I just wasted probably a good 30 minutes pricing this gun out, explaining to her why the other shop's price wasn't good, and she went somewhere else where that gun will probably sit for several months, and I almost feel bad for her. Because I have a good clientele of people that are willing to look at that and say, oh, if I put it out for $275, it would probably have sold that week, or even that next day kind of thing. It's sad. Like other shops, I think what happens is, so I'm 15%. I think I know what shop she was talking about. They charge 25% consignment fee. So if they tell her, hey man, this is worth $450, we're gonna put it out for that, they're getting 25% of $450. Like 15% for, I'll just round it up, even 15% for $300 for me is only $45. Whereas 25% for, 25% for 400 is $100. So they're getting like $125 something, if I can math right now, but they're getting like $125 something if that gun really does sell for $450. Whereas I'd only have sold it for and made $45, but I don't see it selling for $450. I'm just either, and then the problem is with that is, okay, let's say you find some poor schmuck that pays $450 for that gun. Yes, you made a ton of money, but you just ripped a customer off, in my opinion. Like you treated a customer poorly. I have the story I tell a lot of people this as a lesson. I had an old man, one of the first days I opened up. He came in. It was a Davis Industries 380. I'm looking online. It had the box. It was in alright condition, but it had the box, the paperwork. It was good. And I'm looking online, like these are like $100 guns, man. I think I maybe saw one go for like $150, but on average it was like $100 is what they were selling for. So $100 gun, I'm gonna offer you $50. That's just, I make $50 on it. That's pretty average. He looks at me and like the most crushed look I've ever seen. And he's like, oh, well, I think it was during COVID, but he's like, oh, well, I bought this at the pawn shop up the road. They charged me $400 for it. And I almost felt bad. Like, I just felt so bad. I felt so bad. I almost wanted to, like, just, like, cry with the man. Like, you could go online right now for $400 and buy 4 of those guns. And I get it. I think it was COVID, so prices were a little up, but like, ouch. Even during COVID, that was maybe a $200 gun, maybe. It just, oh my God, I felt so bad for that poor man. So, yeah, the pawn shop, they probably bought it for $50. They probably lied, said, oh, this is a $100 gun, we're gonna offer you $50. And they probably sold it for $400. They probably made $350. But I know that man, after explaining to him, I have a blue book of gun values. It's a huge book. I showed him the book. I showed him the internet, and he'll never go back there. So you made a ton of money off this customer, but you lost that customer forever. So was it worth it? In my opinion, no. You ripped an old man off for They probably made like $300. I bet you it was a great payday for them, but was that worth it to you? In my opinion, no. But like I said, that's what I'm trying to. I'm trying to be better than all these other people in the sense of I've been ripped off by gun shops myself. Just charging way too much for a gun. Like the M18 and M17, for example. There's a gun shop around me. I went to them for years. They're charging $700 for that gun. I have it in my shop right now for $650. And like looking back, just getting ripped off for so many years, it's just I love guns. I love the gun shop, but when you look at that, just in the sense of, man, we could do so much better than what everyone else is doing. They're blatantly ripping customers off, and I don't. It's almost sad that like that's what the industry, at least around me, that's what the industry is. You know. It's sad. Like the Glock 19, for example, I charge $540 for the non-optics cut one. That's what it is. Do I make a ton of money on it? No, but that's kind of where Glock tells me to sell it at, and I think it's fair. Other shops in my area are charging $600. They're charging $60 over what I am, and you as a customer can go online. Typically, you see it for $540 yourself. You'll pay $10 for shipping, and you'll pay my $20 transfer fee if you buy it online. But that's still $570. Like, it's crazy to me. So what these shops will do is, like, if you bought that online and shipped it to me, it's only a $30 increase. These shops will have a $60 transfer fee, so they'll incorporate that, and they'll confuse the customers. So they'll say, oh, well, if you buy it online for $540, you're going to pay, our $60 transfer, which would bring you up to $600, and you'd pay a $10 shipping. So that would bring you up to $610. So really my $600 price tag that's pretty okay, actually. And it's not. It's really not. So I think I've ranted enough about that, but I think just for me, just keeping the best possible prices, and because then at that point the customer has more money in their pocket to buy more guns or more ammo, or they'll buy more from me if they, it's just sad. It really is. And my last story of the night, I think I've gone on long enough, but I think my last story of the night will just be, you'll notice a theme here about pricing, and just, I try to be reasonable, and that's great for the customers buying, but the customers that sell to me typically don't think that. And what I mean by that is, like, look at the lady I just discussed. She was told by another shop it was worth about $200 more than it really was. So in her mind, I'm lowballing her, and I'm really not. I'm offering you $100 less than what I'm going to sell it for. So I make $100. It's reasonable by what I'm going to sell it for and what I'm offering you. Another shop, if they're not reasonable with things, then that's on them. So I'll try to be quick about this one. I know I've gone on long enough, but I had a gentleman. He's a good guy, but he sold plenty of guns to me before, and just how, like, some people think, like, oh, I've bought a gun from you before. You now have to give me extra good pricing when I sell you guns, or you have to treat me even better because I've bought from you before. So this guy sold to me before, though. He understands the whole concept of, look, they're just like cars. Guns are like cars. If you take a car and buy it, let's say you buy it for $30,000. As soon as you you sign the paperwork, put the key on the ignition, and drive off the lot, that car is now used. It is now depreciated probably $5,000 just because you have now driven it off, and you're now, it has a new, owner. Does that mean the car really depreciated $5,000? No, but it's sort of that, that concept of, as a customer, if you're buying one, let's say there's a brand new one on the lot with 5 miles, because sometimes, test drives or whatever. If there's a brand new car for 5 miles for 30,000, and there's a used one for, let's say, 100 miles, and it's, let's say in that case 25. Some people say, nah, I'm fine with, I get $5,000 off, big whoop. I'll take the one that's pre-owned. And then a lot of people will say, nah, I don't know anything about that. Why did they turn it in after 100 miles? There could be something wrong with it. I'm just going to pay the extra for the new one. So there's a lot of variables that go into this. So what I'm getting at is, guns are like cars in the sense of, if it's $1,000 gun, brand new, it's new. It's got all the paperwork, the mags, it's new from the factory and everything's good. If it's used and I put it out there for, let's say, $800, some people look at that and they say, for $200 more, I'll get the one that's brand new. I'll get the one that's brand new. It's worth the $200 for me. This guy, it could work perfectly fine. It might be the guy might have traded it in because there was issues. I don't know. So some people are fine with the $800 used one. Some people would pay the extra to get the new. Like me personally, it's a really case by case. I can't really say anything black and white, but like for $100, I would just go with new myself. If there's one, like the shop's trying to get rid of it and it's $1,000 gun for $500 used, great condition, like, oh yeah, I'm going with the used one. But it really depends. So my point being is, I have to now get these guns at a good price to make the customer want to go used instead of new. So if it's $1,000 gun and you come in wanting $900, that's not enough wiggle room for me. Like, that's not to sound greedy or anything, but if I put the gun out for, like, in that instance, like, yeah, if you want $900 and it's $1,000 new, then I would sell it for $9. I wouldn't make anything. And even then, $100, people would go new. So I had a gentleman, case in point here, and so he bought it's a P320 Scorpion. They don't make them anymore, but they were $1,000 new. And some websites claim they still have some new ones, but they might just be, sat on the shelf for a while. They're $1,000 brand new. And he put a Hollow Sun SCS on top of it, which is $400 new. Now again, and some people almost don't understand, I'm a shop. I get things cheaper than retail. That's how I make my money. So on a $1,000 gun like that, I probably pay $850 for it brand new. And the Hollow Sun at $400, I think I pay $300 for it brand new. So I appreciate you paid $14 for it brand new. I only pay, what's that? Hold on, let me do. I pay $11.50 for it brand new for that combo. So we're already at about $300, well, $250, but we're already at a $250 discrepancy right there alone. And that alone, I just try to explain it to the customers, because like that $250 alone right there is enough to make people walk away. So I'm looking online and I'm seeing tons of, I didn't find that exact combo. I found one, it was the Loophole Delta Point Pro, which is another $400 optic on top of that gun, and it just sold for $1,000. So I was like, you know what, a used 320, the Scorpion, the optic on top, I'm like, yeah, I'd probably put it in my shop for $1,000. It's used. Both components are now used. And he did shoot it, so it truly is used. It's not like it's new in the box. So I'm looking at like $1,000 gun. I need wiggle room in the sense of I'm going to pay a credit card fee. Most 90% of people swipe their credit card, so I pay a credit card fee. I need to leave myself a little wiggle room in case the market itself changes. What if tomorrow SIG decides that they start making them again, and the value of them kind of tanks? What if, there's a lot of factors that go into it. The customers, even if I put it out for $1,000, I like to leave myself room. If somebody walks in and says, "Hey, I got $950, cold hard cash, would you take that?" I'm gonna say yes to that myself. So I need to leave myself some room for negotiation, for the market, for just a lot of factors, the credit card fees, and the whole point of me selling guns is to make money. That's how I, stay alive. That's how I, keep the lights on. So your used gun is no different. I have to make some money on that. So $1,000 gun, typically I give you $700 for it. And this guy went absolutely like nuts. And he's sold to me before. And again, I try to explain this whole process to people. Look, this gun's used now with the optic. It's worth about $1,000. It's no longer worth $14 because it's not a brand new in the box. You've shot it, it's used, it's $1,000. I'm going to offer you $700. And he went absolutely ballistic in this. He's like, "Well, I paid $400 for this optic, so you're saying the gun's only worth $300? And I was like, "No. That's what I'm offering you is $700. I think it's worth $1,000. So if you paid $400 for the optic, I'm saying the gun's worth $600, but it's not a brand new optic anymore. And shocker, I can go online right now and pay $300 for one that's still brand new in the box. So why am I going to give you anything more than $300 when yours is opened, it's missing the screws, it doesn't have the box, like there's a lot of factors into this, even at $250, and then see, just like I was talking about, like that new versus used price, even if I was to give you $250 for your used one, why would I do that when for $50 more I can buy a brand new one for my shop? So even then, I'm not going to give you $250 for it because it's open. I'd maybe give you $200 for it. So I kind of explained my process of how a $400 brand new optic goes down to like a $200 trade-in because, and I think that's even generous, but like again, even at $250, I'm not going to give you $3 because I can buy a brand new one for $3. $250, at that point I would just go with a new one, so I'd probably be at like $200. $200 for the optic. The gun's selling for about $750, so really I'm offering you about $500 for the gun. That's really not that crazy. I'd make $300 on it. That's enough to, I take all the risk by buying it, that something doesn't happen to the price of these. Like I said, either SIG starts making them again, or heaven forbid, a massive stockpile gets found and the market gets flooded with them. New overstock or something like that. But I take all the risk by giving you $700. Now, I get it, but I just kind of elaborated to you how a $1,400 setup, it's only worth $1,000, so therefore I'm going to make money and offer you $7. He's done. I've explained this to him, and he sold things to me before, but yet like this time it was different. I don't know. Like, no, I'm not telling you. I'm not appraising your gun at $300. That optic is not worth $400 anymore, and I'm offering you $700, but I don't think it's worth that. I think it's worth $1,000. I have to make money. So it's just, I don't understand. I really just don't understand people. In the sense of, I get it, and that's why I try to explain to people the process of the one that people all the time, they come in with these Taurus G2Cs and stuff like that, and I'm like, look, I explained to him, I had one the other day, it was a G3C. I'm selling these brand new for $280. used. I need to leave like some wiggle room here, so that people are gonna want to go. I have one right now. I think I probably overpaid for. It was a Heritage Rough Rider. I have it out there used for $100, but in the cabinet right next to it, I have a new one for $170. So even then, most people are like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go with the new one for 70 more bucks." So it's just there's a lot of factors, and I take all the risk, which, you know, it's crazy. Um, so yeah, like a used G3C, I'm gonna sell for like $175 probably. So therefore, I'd probably only offer you $75 for it. And this guy in this scenario, he's like, 75. I paid 300 for it. Like, brother, did you not listen to anything I just said? This is you. You paid it brand new. This is now used. This is no longer a $300 gun. This is a $175, $200 gun. I have to make money off of that price, so therefore I'm going to offer you even less. And it's just, I get if you paid $300 for a gun and now you're being offered 75, but that's why I try to explain to people as best I can and go through that process of how your $300 brand new gun is now only worth 75. It's not really only worth 75. It's worth 200 or 175, but I need to make money on that myself. So it's just, so this dude his feelings are all hurt, and he's just, I was like, brother, just, and then in that instance, typically what I do is I say, look, if you're not fine with the cash value, then let's just consign it. You tell me what you want it sold for. I take 15% of whatever it sells for. That way I take no risk here. You know, and then at that point, if the market gets flooded with more, if they start production up again, if you're too high on the price because you're sniffing paint or whatever, you know, I take no risk here. Until it sells, I make money. So if it's $1,400 brand new and you want to put your used combo out there for $1,400, well, I don't lose any money. But it's just, I think I rambled long enough. But yeah, just a bunch of crazy stories. It's always craziness. It really is. Most of the time I go whole weeks without crazy, but like the ones that are like crazy, just they drive me nuts. But I think I'll leave it there for tonight, guys. If you want to see more crazy stories, which I'm sure you do, let me know. If you like it this length or longer or shorter, whatever, let me know. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.